Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is the latest in the long line of Sony exclusives for the series, and with it comes a bunch of cool Easter eggs to other games in the PlayStation family. From Horizon Zero Dawn to Jax and Daxter, here are 18 PlayStation Easter eggs in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. The first group of Easter eggs can be found after you've purchased the game's ultimate weapon, Rhino 8. The Rhino 8 fires portals that warp in objects from other dimensions for complete destruction. The majority of these objects disappear in a flash, but if you're quick with that photo mode, you can get a detailed look at all those familiar characters, vehicles, and relics that appear. The PlayStation 2 birthed a new generation of iconic platforming characters beyond just Ratchet & Clank. Sly Cooper also arrived on the PS2 back in 2002 and can now be warped into a Ratchet & Clank game almost 20 years later. Along with Sly, you can also warp in his trusty companion and brains of the operation, Bentley, as well as the Cooper Gang's van. But unfortunately, there's no sign of Murray. A year before there was Sly Cooper and Ratchet & Clank though, there was Jax and Daxter. Not wanting to miss out on the party, you can warp in Jax in a couple of different poses. One of them even includes his long-term companion Daxter, although we weren't quite quick enough to catch the Otso in his full glory. You can also warp in the Precursor Orb from Jax and Daxter, the game's collectible and currency that have also featured in Naughty Dog games like Uncharted since their arrival. And speaking of Uncharted, in a flash, you might notice a red and white seaplane drop from a portal. Well, with a quick bit of photo mode trickery, you can clearly identify this as Hog Wild, Sully's plane from Uncharted. And Sully's plane isn't the only Uncharted vehicle you can spot. In another blink and you miss it moment, you can also cast your eyes on the Jeep from Uncharted 4. The dead giveaway being the Roadhog rental sticker plastered on the side of the 4x4's door. The last Uncharted Easter egg that drops from a portal is the Furba dagger from Uncharted 4. The Rhino 8 can also warp in something more PlayStation that's a little more recent, namely the Sawtooth and the Thunderjaw from Horizon Zero Dawn. Fortunately, these guys hang around for a little longer, so you get to enjoy them in all their robot dino glory. And lastly, the Rhino 8 can also warp in Fizzy, the mascot of Fizco and bad guy from Insomniac's Sunset Overdrive. Yes, we know, not a PlayStation game, but definitely still a cool Easter egg. Also from Sunset Overdrive is Overcharged Delirium XT, an in-game energy drink that you use as currency. You can find this by using the Gold Bolts cheat that changes your collectible bolts into cans of Overcharge. And using this cheat you can also change your bolts to orbs that look extremely similar to the ones in God of War. You can also change it to rupees or coins, both looking very similar to collectible objects found in a couple of well-known Nintendo games. When you reach Savali, you'll have the option to collect 12 Lombax Lorbs to get some new armor pieces. But perhaps more exciting is the hidden messages contained inside these lorbs. All 12 contain voice notes from a Lombax explorer called Mags, who's been tasked to map every dimension with the help of the Dimensionator, with the first planet he mapped sounding suspiciously like the world of Sly Cooper.
Mapped my first dimension today. Pretty standard stuff, except the colors there were so vivid, like, whoa. And there were these creatures. One of them even looked like a Lombax, but he had smaller ears, a mask, and a cane, and I think he was pulling some kind of heist? Whatever it was, it looked cool.
The next dimension Mags visited was, in his own words, not as colourful, but was populated with characters made of relics that could break apart, aka the world of PS4 launch platformer Knack.
Their bodies were made out of all these old relics, but they could break apart and still be alive. It was so wild.
Mags doesn't give a lot of info about the third dimension, and maybe this one is slightly a stretch, but it sounds like he's describing the PS1 platformer Intelligent Cube.
The third dimension was cubes. Really smart cubes.
Dimension 31X7, by Mag's own admission, is not super different from home, but does refer to a couple of characters that are almost certainly PlayStation's other famous platforming duo, Jax and Daxter.
But there were these creatures. One was firing a gun and spinning himself around every other second, while the other hung out on his shoulder doing live commentary. Oh, I wanted to hang out with them so badly.
And the final dimension, and quite possibly the cutest one he's ever seen according to Mags, is the world of Little Big Planet, the iconic platforming game for PS3.
Oh, the inhabitants were all made out of wool, I think. They could literally make anything. And there was a really pleasant voice following me around everywhere. Oh, it was incredible. Oh, and what's even better? I think I'm finally close to mapping my last dimension.
So there we have it. There's 18 Easter eggs we found in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, but we're sure there's loads that we missed. Did you find any? Let us know in the comments, and for much more on Ratchet & Clank, stick with IGN.